really enjoyed making these, and I hope that you enjoy, and I hope that you try. And thanks so much for watching, and hopefully I'm going to get back on the ball. NaNoJouMo starts on the 1st, which is, gosh, is that Sunday? Is that Sunday? So I am really anxious to get started, and hoping that NaNoJouMo will just kind of help get me back in my groove. So thanks so much, everybody. I hope you enjoy these, and I hope that you try. And you can use any colors that you want. You don't have to use autumn colors. I just thought that since it was autumn time that you know, oranges and greens and reds would be fun. So thanks so much. I hope you enjoy this, and let's speed it up and make these cards. Bye, everybody.
Okay, so I love to use watercolor paper as my base for my ATCs, and I picked this up at Target for $2.99, and it's 20 sheets of cold press 140-pound watercolor paper, and I cut those into ATC sizes. And the piece of deli paper that I'm using has some extra modeling paste on it that was first used with a tree branch stencil, and then I went over that with the larger leaf stencil, and I put the modeling paste on nice and thick because I want it to be raised up on top of my card as I add the paint. And I actually am using spackling instead of modeling paste, and I just picked this up from the hardware store, and it works exactly the same as modeling paste. And I, you know, that's what my husband had, and so that's what I used. And I'm just going to use some Mod Podge, and I have the thick side with the modeling paste face down on my work table, and I'm putting a good amount of Mod Podge on each of these cards and pressing them down onto the deli paper and trying to position them where the leaf is off to the one side of the ATC. Now, if I had not placed the larger leaf stencil on here with the modeling paste, you can get, I believe, 11 ATCs off of one sheet of this deli paper. So sometimes if I have a lot of paint that's covered over that piece of deli paper, I will cover that whole piece of deli paper with glued on ATCs and cut those out and go from there. And it's a great way to get a lot of cards from just one piece of deli paper. Plus you're reusing your paper and your paint too. So I'm just cutting off all the extra. And here you can see the texture from the modeling paste, both from the tree branch and then how much thicker I applied it with the larger leaf stencil. So I'm going to start out with just 2 colors of Americana acrylic craft paint. And these are, it's a very light yellow and then a yellow that's a bit darker, and most of this will be covered up, but I just like starting with some paint on the background, and it just helps build the layers up. And I'm just rubbing this in with my finger, and I am not putting paint on directly on top of the large leaf because I want that area to soak up the FW acrylic paints that I'm going to be applying later. And I'm just very haphazardly adding the darker shade of yellow on top of the light. And I did not try to blend this well. I just very randomly rubbed both of those colors of paint on top of each card. So now I'm going to add some of the FW Acrylic Artist inks. I have 3 different colors, a red, an orange, and a yellow. And I'm just going to start with the yellow, it's the lightest color. And I'm just putting a bit on the top and the bottom of each ATC, and then I'm going to gently squirt each of those with water and let it bleed. And I'm not using a whole lot of water because the inks are very, very liquidy already. I'm just using the water to help the inks spread across the paper. So now here's some adding the orange. And I am, this is real speed right now. I'm not going fast. I am gently spraying it with water and gently tilting the card to let the 2 colors bleed together and move across the card where they want to. And the great thing about having the leaf stencil being so thick with the modeling paste, it gives a place for the inks to spread, and it just really makes some wonderful patterns. And the more that you tilt this and mess with it, the more that they're going to blend together. So if you don't want it to blend together a lot, you need to be very slow and gentle and just let the inks work together. If you don't want the colors to bleed together at all, then I will dry each color in between adding the next color. And now I'm just going to add a little bit of red and let that bleed also. It's very hard to see on this because the light is flashing out the colors so badly, but that little bit of red really adds a lot to this card. And I am not trying to cover the whole card with the acrylic inks. I'm just letting them bleed where they would like to go. So for the second half of cards, I'm going to use the yellow and then a light green and a dark green. And as I'm adding these colors, I am not trying to cover every every little bit of the large modeling paste leaf. I like having some areas where there's a lot of color on the modeling paste and some where it's very light. It just gives it a lot of depth and even more texture. And here you can see how the modeling, the FW inks have brought out all of the different layers, all the different textures on the card from the modeling paste, from the tree branch stencil and also from the large leaf stencil. And to bring the stencil out even more of the large leaf, I'm going to go around the edges with my Stabilo All Pencil. And my cards are not very dry. They're dry, but they're not super dry. So I am being very gentle as I go around the edges. And it would be best to wait, but I am anxious and I like to finish things up. So I just gently went around the edges and the veins of each of the leaves. And now I'm just going to go around carefully with my water brush. And I love how this brings out the leaf and it gives it just some more dimension. And when I'm going around the edges of different things with my water brush, I hold the brush very flat against the edge of the card. It's laying on the card, and here I accidentally squirt out too much water, but I like it when you lay it so that more of the actual brush is against the paper. It gives the Stabilo some room to bleed, and I like having the Stabilo bleed across outside of the edges. Kind of gives it more of a shadow. And now I'm going to use my archival ink, my black ink pad, and I'm going to go around the edges. And then very gently I'm going to rub across the top of the leaf and also just a little bit on the tops of the rest of the card where some of that branch stencils out. And if you're really gentle, you'll just rub across just the raised parts where that texture's at, and it brings out the stenciled area even more. And I just love the grungy look that it gives it. It brings up the wrinkles and all of the imperfections of the deli paper on the card, and I love that. And I like to dry my the ink on the cards because it just seems it's pretty tacky, so I usually kind of hit it with my heat gun real quick. And you can't go wrong with a good splattering of paint, so I am going to use a green to go on top of the green and yellow cards, and I just mixed the acrylic paint with some water, and I'm using a fan brush to get some nice good splatters on there. And for the yellow and orange cards, I'm going to use an orange color. I love adding splatters to my projects. It just adds just one more layer of texture, and I just love having splatters on things. So I've got my good old Scarlet Gone with the Wind book, and I picked out some phrases. I'm using some Liquitex matte medium to glue down the phrases that I clipped out from this book. And these are just partial sentences. I just flip through the book, and whatever catches my eye, I clip out that part of the sentence. A lot of times when I'm looking for these phrases, I might read just the first couple words along just one edge of the book, and that way I'm not purposely reading a whole sentence, and these bits and pieces of sentences just seem to stand out easier that way. And it's just kind of like a scavenger hunt, looking for interesting bits of sentences to add to my ATCs. And I'm going ahead and brushing the matte medium across the whole top of the card just to seal it nice and well, and it adds just a little bit of a sheen to it. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you so much, and I hope to be getting back to creating more and sharing more with you again. And just for this last bit, I'm going to go around the phrases with my Stabilo pencil and the water brush. But November's coming up, and that means NaNoJouMo, so be sure to check out Dawn Sokol's webpage. And on November 1st, hopefully I'll be sharing a video almost daily of my pages for that project. I've definitely been in a very long and dry creative rut, and it's good to be back. Thanks so much, everybody. Bye-bye.